everyone, and welcome to the Dirty Side of the Grid podcast, where we've turned up late to qualifying. So late, in fact, but then Michael Massey decided for fair racing and for the good of the sport that he'd let us start on the clean side. So
just this once.
Just for now, just to appease the Netflix fans. I'm the still salty host, Mohammed, joined by what's looking like it's going to be Yusuf's, I don't know, the hour of his life, to be honest. He's already pulling the smug face, so we'll see how this one goes. How are you feeling?
You know why I feel smug, though? Because my predictions were right. That's why I felt smug. You know why I said? Yeah. I told like every person I met, I said that I want Lewis to win up to Saudi.
This was from Brazil,
From Brazil, I was like, I want him to win to Saudi, so they're like level on points. And then going into Brazil, like, it's basically a showdown of like, because it makes the race so interesting.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, nah, this. And then it happened, and Max won, and everyone I met was like, bro, you were so right. I was like, I told you, why didn't you listen to me from the beginning?
Incredible scenes. Well,
I called it from.
You did call it.
I called it from like Brazil, basically. But I genuinely thought at that point, I thought Lewis would win. Because Mercedes looked like, in Brazil, they looked like they had simply just incredible performance.
Yeah.
It kind of, like,
in qualifying,
it went down a bit, yeah. Like, even in race pace, it wasn't like Brazil, like Lewis put 10 seconds in, like, is it 5 laps or 8 laps?
It wasn't 20th to first kind of pace, but it was still...
No. It was okay, obviously
still clearly ahead
much quicker, quicker than everyone else, but not as quick as Brazil. So there's a bit, I think it's because the engine was a bit older.
Yeah.
You can see the difference, but before we start, there is one thing I like to bring up. So,
yeah,
I was watching, I don't know if you watched the F1's post-race show, essentially.
Nah, I didn't want to hear anything from
No, so
nothing that F1 was churning out.
No, so this one was Will Buxton.
Yeah, not a fan.
Jolyon Palmer, and Jack Aitken.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually quite a decent lineup in terms of like something like that. But Will brought up something that I mentioned to you like long time ago. Mercedes have not used their token on the car to upgrade the car up to now.
Yeah, I saw that.
So essentially the W12 is just a W11 adapted for the regulations of this year.
Yeah.
So Mercedes have basically spent spent bare minimum on the car this year, whereas Red Bull was actually spending so much money upgrading her. You remember I told you that Mercedes, if they're smart, they're going to win the Constructors. I told you this a long time ago. Let them drag out the championship and let Red Bull spend all their money on this year, and then you've eliminated one team essentially for next year are going to be on the back foot. Mercedes, no, because Mercedes, the reason they've won 8 back-to-back championships is because they went into those regulations prepared.
They set up their engine before in 2014.
And even the car and everything, they set it up for those. I think they did the same thing this year, where they essentially sacrificed this season, and they're like, let's drag it out as much as possible, and spend as little resources. Try and not spend any resources on the car this year. And you could tell they stopped upgrades were like the upgrades they brought were small. It was just kind of tweaking the car.
Yeah.
And then they stopped very early, whereas Red Bull were upgrading and they're bringing big upgrades throughout the season. So I think that's gonna hurt Red Bull.
But before everyone gets worried, they were a midfield team in 2013. So before the regulations changed, they were a midfield team. So we'll get into predictions for next year at some point. We'll probably do an entire podcast on it. But I'm not saying they're going to dominate next year. There's no way they win.
I don't think that's going to happen because they're not going to spend... they don't get as much runtime in the
wind tunnels.
In the wind tunnels. And they have spent they didn't actually spend all their money on the thingy this year, whereas other teams spent all their money on... I don't think Haas is going to go on but I think midfield teams like McLaren and stuff like that, they have a good shot. But anyways, that's for another time.
Well, now we're going to have to get into... Before we talk too much about next year, we're going to have to go about this year. You are going to have to summarise the last weekend of the season in 60 seconds. And I'm not going to let you get away with too much this time. So, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, Verstappen qualifies on pole. Everything before that was useless, basically. And then off the line, Lewis gets a better start. Lewis goes in, even though Verstappen's on softs, which is purpose. Like Red Bull did that on purpose. Verstappen lost the lead. It looked like Verstappen lost the race essentially at that point. Verstappen commits to an overtake, which based on like all the decisions of the FIA throughout the season, Lewis should have given the position back. The FIA didn't, inconsistent as they are the whole year. And then the VSC happened because someone crashed, I don't remember. Giovinazzi stopped on track. He changed to newer tires, hard tires. So Verstappen was able to kind of, Checo defended Lewis, incredible. Verstappen was catching up, and then Lewis actually built a gap. And then safety car, because Nicky hit the wall. Verstappen comes in for softs, and then Michael Masi just screws up everything, and then Verstappen's world champion. What is it?
Before you said Verstappen is world champion, that was 60.
Yeah, it's fine.
So there you go. According to Yusuf, in 60 seconds, Max is not world champion. I'm joking. Okay, no. Well,
he's gonna have number 1 on his car next year, so I think that's
is. Yeah.
That's enough, isn't it?
I think the funniest part is the last person to have number 1 in their car
was Vettel in 2014.
in Red Bull. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've done that. I guess we'll just start off with the last sentence right there. Max Verstappen, world champion. How are you feeling about it?
I think he deserves it. I think if anyone says he does not deserve it, they don't know what they're talking about. You can feel for Lewis. I feel bad for Lewis. The way it ended was not. No one deserves to lose a championship that way.
Especially after the year.
Basically, they were trying to recreate what happened in Brazil. What happened?
I hate the comparison. So
no, but what happened?
Hate the
that's the thing. What happened in Brazil was natural.
Exactly,
Rain came,
that's the point.
Lewis, it was exciting because Lewis won based on uncontrollable circumstances.
It was it's the weather,
But they essentially were trying so hard to recreate that of like an overtake on the last lap. I feel like that's why, because if Lewis knew they were coming in, like there wouldn't be 5 cars, they would have pitted Lewis.
Yeah.
Early, like as soon as the yellow.
As soon as it came out, gap or no gap, you pit him to make sure he's got his tires to battle. Yeah.
But they didn't do that, which was surprising, and like they didn't do that because they thought there'd be like 5 cars between them. Or six with what's his name, Sergio Perez.
Here's the thing though, like you just can't. We'll get into the talk later, but like Mercedes' strategy, you can't fault that.
No, I don't fault. I say they did it based on the data
from what
they had.
Knew,
But then Michael Masi essentially did what Michael Masi does.
He went rogue, bro. He went rogue. There's no rogue marshals, but there's a rogue Michael Masi.
I don't get.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it later. Just first, Max Verstappen, world champion.
Yeah, I think the only thing that kind of sours it for me, or like for Max, I think that's going to sour. It's kind of the same with Nico. Nico won the championship, and people look back and like, he only won because Lewis got that DNF in Malaysia, was it?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
People are like, that's the only reason he won, and this. But that's minor compared to this. I feel like
definitely.
For Verstappen, his first championship is always going to be like, but he only won on like luck. But I feel like that's actually like, it doesn't give him justice. Because he's driven this year with a level of maturity that he did not have like basically like any time before. He's grown up, he's driving like this year like you'd expect a world champion to drive. Like he was incredible.
Yeah.
I'd say if they were both in the same car this year, Max would have won. Purely on the basis of Lewis made so many mistakes this year. Like
Baku,
that's what I mean. Like when Max was out of the race, Max was out because of circumstances he couldn't control. When Max didn't win, it was either Lewis had like incredible pace or Mercedes like got strategy like on point like Barcelona, something like that. Or he was basically tired, he lost, someone smacked him out twice. Stuff like it was uncontrollable. But when Lewis made mistakes, like when Lewis lost points, like Baku, he could have gained 25 points. He lost them because he made mistakes. You don't expect that from Lewis. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like you expect I think it's because obviously the way he's performed over the last 7 years, he's performed at such a high level. That's what I expect from him. The one thing I would mention though is I'm actually very impressed by Lewis in terms of the way he reacted after he lost. Because I expected, like, if Max had lost, he would have flipped out, he would have done this. It would have been ugly.
Definitely.
But the way Lewis kind of handled that, he went and he gave Max a hug, and even Lewis's father, he went and like,
I can't lie, under no circumstances would I shake Jos Verstappen's hand.
No, I
But
wouldn't.
I respect.
But
him for
respect to
doing it.
both of them for having the humility to go do that. Like, I think that kind of says a lot about his character.
Yeah, and for people who didn't know this already, like, where have you been? Like, this is so obvious. Every time one of those drivers under 25 crashes out, whatever it is, he's in their Instagram comments like, oh, you'll get him next time and all of this, but people are still hating on him. And then when he comes out and does this, they're like, oh, I've got newfound respect for him. Like, he wasn't a dickhead before. I don't know what they're
No,
getting,
he
like,
wasn't.
really.
He wasn't.
I understand
I think it's
people
very
not liking
hard.
his character.
It's
But
very hard.
there's-
It's very hard
there's
to lose a
difference.
championship like this, and go and hug your competitor, and his dad, and say congratulations. That's why I think like, it kind of pushes your respect for him a bit up. Like I respect him, but like a bit more now.
No, I get
Just
it.
because that was like the way he did it was like, it's the same with Sebastian. When Sebastian lost, he went to Mercedes, went into the garage,
Oh yeah,
and he said congratulations.
yeah.
But he did not lose it the same way Lewis lost it. So you kind of like,
True, yeah, that was lost
it
with
was
a few
okay,
races to go.
exactly,
It,
but
it was
Lewis-
already coming.
Lewis was world champion until like the last lap.
If the safety car went, what is it, like 100 more meters, he would have been world champion. Or if Massey followed the rules, he would have been world champion. But we'll get into that. Honest, I don't want to like barrage everything too much because there's a lot of technical stuff. I've never read the regulations in my life. I've been watching F1 since I was like 6-7 years old. Obviously not the entire race because I'm not a maniac, but like I've never actually read the regulations. But they were posted so much, I actually thought I might as well read them. So if you want to hear that, we'll go to it later. And
we'll
I've
talk
got,
about how Michael Massey does Massey.
yeah, I've also got tweet notifications on for Mercedes now because they haven't said a word since they lodged the protest, and I'm hearing certain things as of literally like an hour ago.
What?
But I'm not gonna chat too much.
No,
I'm not gonna chat too much.
No,
It's
now
not.
you have to say
It's
this.
not based on anything like
Okay, yeah, but what,
set in stone concrete.
What is it?
Okay, there's obviously now me being in my Lewis Hamilton fan base bubble. I've followed a bunch of accounts, all of this stuff, whatever. A word on the street is they may be lodging a protest. They have, because they've notified the protest. They've said they've made the intent to do it. They have a 96 hour.
Appeal the
yeah.
you mean appeal it?
So they have 96 hours to gather their evidence. You know, decide whether they're going to.
Oh, they're
going
gonna
to
appeal what Michael Massey did essentially.
Yeah, so they're going to try and get the result overturned. They're going to try and give Lewis his world championship. So they have 96 hours. The 96 hours ends at Thursday at 8 p.m. The trophy gets handed to Max, or the beginning of the trophy ceremony starts at Thursday at 9 p.m.
So an hour after.
Yeah. So they have until Thursday at 8.
You
I'm
know-
hearing they might do it. They still haven't made an official statement
I
of
will
decision,
say
but we'll see how it
one
goes.
thing about it. You know how
Yes.
it's ironic. It's ironic in a way that Michael Massey and Liberty Media, and they're trying essentially to push the thingy to the end. They're trying to get this showdown. They're trying to get so much.
Graphics.
They're
really.
trying to essentially get Formula One a bigger fan base, but the way they did it, they might actually lose fans just because if it gets overturned, I think they're gonna appeal it. I think it's gonna get rejected, and I think then they get to take it to the International Court of related to
That's
motorsports.
already happened. So it was appealed and rejected straight after the race within about 2 hours of it happening. That's when you got
No,
the
they
statement
lodged
saying
a
he's
complaint.
official.
No, they lodged a complaint.
What they took it to the stewards.
Yeah,
They said Max overtook us under the safety car,
yeah.
and
I don't
the
think
safety car.
it's
well,
not
hold
gonna
on,
change
give
for
it a
the
minute,
Max
give it a
thing.
minute,
It's
give it a
gonna
minute.
change.
The safety car. He overtook us under the safety car, and the safety car rules weren't followed by Michael Massey. The first one, you're completely right. The overtaking under the safety car, that was just thrown in there for the sake of, it was like what they called Hail Marys. It's,
Yeah, just
whatever.
throw as many as
Just
you
give it a go. The second one was the main one, but the stewards still overruled that. They had a hearing after the race. It was like 9 p.m. local time for them. Or I think it was even later. I don't know. But I think it was 9 p.m. here in the UK, and then a lot later over there. They had the hearings and stuff, and they declared it. The steward said, no, we're keeping it. Max is still world champion. The overtaking thing, we admit he overtook Lewis, but we don't really care, basically. And there were arguments made about the safety car rules, but we'll get into what they actually said specifically. After that, they had an hour window to lodge their intent to appeal it.
Yeah, but
So
they
that's what
appeal
they
it
did.
with the stewards as well.
No, that goes to the International Court of Appeal. So this
Yeah,
thing
but
they've
that's the
handed in
thing.
now.
What I'm saying is, even if the International Court of Appeal rejects it,
Yeah.
they can actually take it to like a higher court.
Oh, this is the court of something motors. Oh,
Yes,
no, hold on,
yes,
hold
the
on,
International Court of like Motorsport, whatever.
So it's the. Oh, I didn't write it down.
It's
The-
basically that's the one where like
It's. I think it's
McLaren got
CAS. What they're calling it.
McLaren got like the 100 million fine. Was that the highest court essentially?
This is how intense it's got though. I was on the Daily Mail website of all places you'd find me, and they said that in the regulations for applying as a constructor to enter the World Championship, you have to say that appeals and stuff go through the ICA, the International Court of Appeal, which is independent from the FIA. That's what they're saying it is. So they've ruled out the idea that it could go to that other court, but we'll see. I don't know. First of all, Mercedes have to actually say they're going to do it. They need to follow through and say that we're going to take this to court. Then the court stuff needs to happen, but I don't want to get too much into it. I don't want to overload everything now. The court stuff's confusing.
Realistically speaking, Max is going to get the trophy on Thursday.
Yes, definitely.
If it gets changed, it's gonna get changed probably around February time, like closer to the start of the new season.
It takes at least a month.
But that's why I think where
process.
they screwed up, because now they've basically ruined. They've ruined it for the fans. Like, you know, Harry Kane was commenting on it. He's like, I've not watched F1, but like.
Bro, this.
But
one
like,
thing we can all get behind is no one wants to see celebrities chatting about.
No. But I get. I'm talking about it in terms of like people who have no clue what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Even they're confused.
Gary Lineker's tweet was elite actually.
Oh
Did you see
yeah.
that? Right, he was like, oh yeah, so they're like 4-0 up, and then suddenly the referee was like, you know what? We're gonna settle this by a penalty shootout. You lot, you're shooting barefoot, and you know what? It wasn't even that wrong, to be honest. And then Will Buxton was in the replies like, oh, this is so wrong. I'm sorry, this is not accurate though. Like Will Buxton's just. I mean, realistically, he's just a spawn of F1. Like he's their puppet, so you can't really listen to anything he says. Right, look, I don't want to. We'll go through this later, but first of all, we'll get into qualifying and the start of the race. So, quali happened. Max's pace was insane. He did what he couldn't do last week. Finished the lap and he smashed it completely. Like the Red Bulls once again. Setting pace. What did you think of the lap?
I think, free practice, boring.
No one watches practice.
But free practice did give us an idea that Mercedes would have the better pace on the long run.
Yeah.
But Red Bull had tested the softs essentially. And then going into qualifying, I think everyone kind of thought Max would put on pole. But I think the surprising thing was qualifying was kind of like great lap, but not as great as Saudi because he was a lot closer than Saudi. But I think the thing we have to talk about is Max's start.
We don't want to get into that too soon.
Start,
First of all, I just want to say,
is
in terms of qualifying as well, Tsunoda put it through. Tsunoda, we'll get onto him in a bit as well. I don't want to keep delaying things to the end of the podcast, but Tsunoda got through to Q2 on mediums. Other than the two Mercedes, he was the only driver in the top 10.
You mean Q3?
So he got through. He got through to Q3 on medium tires. Other than the two Mercedes, he's the only driver that did that. Everyone else did it on softs. Yeah. Obviously, you could argue Red Bull did it on purpose, but for a midfield driver to do that.
Red Bull did it on purpose. But Red Bull, the whole idea was to start on softs to get the advantage. I think if Max was ahead, I genuinely think he would have kept Lewis behind him. But
I mean, he would have done anything to keep
exactly.
Behind.
So he would have kept I think Saudi is a good indication of Lewis having the pace, but just not being able to overtake.
But Saudi's a different track.
Yeah,
with
but
1 kilometer straight down the back straight.
But even then, Max would just weave.
He
did
weave.
And Max was gonna take the inside and just push his car so Lewis might have be further ahead and Max is just gonna block him off on that. So he's gonna defend it. I think he would have kept the position, but his start is just shocking.
Yeah, well, he got completely dusted on the start,
so
clear
a
into turn 1.
He was a 10th down in reaction time.
And then on top of that, I think Red Bull said he had clutch issues. Not clutch issues, but he messed up with the clutch in first and second gear, so his start was awful. Lewis gets past, and now his strategy is ruined. The whole point of being on soft tyres, you're meant to build up a gap to the car behind you, and then pit, and you have all of this basically. But if the car's ahead of you, there's nothing you can do. Your strategy is ruined.
You're ruined.
So,
but you have to give it to Red Bull for their adaptability.
They did throw everything at it,
Yeah, in terms of like with everything that was happening, they still stayed on top of it, and they still were able to extract as much as possible out of the race.
Everything was a punt, to be fair. Like, even from the start of the weekend, everything was a punt. Like, going through to Q3 on soft tyres, that's a punt. Like, just everything, it was all like, you could tell they didn't want to admit it. But I'd say Christian Horner's way of admitting we don't have the race pace to keep up with Mercedes tomorrow was him going, I mean, it's been a great season. We've done so well. We've taken them to the final race this season. I'm so proud of everyone. Like, you could almost say he was talking as if he lost it already, which argued they did lose the constructors. Obviously, they don't care about that. But, like, you could tell he knew they didn't quite have the pace, which is why they were doing everything they could.
Mercedes suddenly just got pace from nowhere. That's the shocking part. I just want to know where they got that pace, because it's not the engine. Like, you can sing to the end of the week about a new engine. A new engine is not giving you that big of an advantage. There was something shady, and I don't mean shady as in it's wrong. I mean shady as in it's borderline grey, like where they were using like something to give them that extra pace. Why is
Interesting.
it?
I mean, so what I've heard, obviously this, I don't know, all you can say about it, what they're saying is, well, it's not even, they're not going to come out and say, like, this is where we found our 4 tenths in the last 4 races. But essentially, they're talking about finding, the problem with the car wasn't that it wasn't fast, it's that they didn't understand how to balance it properly or set it up. And you could see that if you watch Lewis's qualifying laps. He's always hacking at the steering wheel, he's always doing all of this stuff. But if you watch one from him last year or the year before, you can tell it's all smooth movements, one movement at the steering wheel, there's no oversteer, there's no understeer, all of this stuff. So they're saying they found out how to set it up better, which makes sense with the amount of time I'm assuming Lewis is spending in the simulator and all this, which he normally doesn't do. I think he said he turned down a couple weeks ago, before one of the races, one of these last 4, he said he turned down a dinner somewhere to do with important people, with like a table of important people to train instead, which normally he would never do.
Bro, he doesn't use the, like, he's used the simulator like 3 times before this year. Literally, something like that. It was like he's used it, like he's never used it basically before this year. This year is only because he had to use it essentially.
Yeah.
But you can see the difference actually between their setup, between Max and Lewis, especially in Saudi. In Saudi, it's very evident, and actually, you can see it very well. Especially in qualifying, Max is like the steering angle he's putting in. Like, if you watch his steering wheel, it goes like he goes right, and then it's left, and it's like this smooth kind of like, he only puts like one steering and holds it, and then for the next corner. Whereas Lewis is.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, so they can't set up.
Even in Saudi, the car wasn't set up like in qualifying. I think they set up the car for the race. Like, it's a good setup, but for qualifying, you could see it was not set up well. Like, you can see the difference between the both of them. Max's car was just so
And the biggest one to be able to tell is when Bottas doesn't do well. Because Bottas is an alright qualifier, to be fair to him. So when Lewis is
Bottas is a good qualifier.
So when when Lewis is 4 tenths behind Max, but Bottas is another 8 tenths behind Max, you can tell, like, Lewis is doing this purely on talent, and he's getting it up there and all of this. And I'm not saying Bottas is some 4-time world champion, but like, you can clearly see the difference between him and the rest of the field.
But that's the thing. This year, I think it was very evident. You can see like Max and Lewis were just in a league of their own.
Yeah.
Like, literally in a league of, in terms of consistency, in terms of extracting the most out of the car. You could argue that at the beginning of the season, the only one that was kind of close to them was Lando, but he
solidified his third. Like, it was Max and Lewis, Lando, and then the rest.
Yeah, I think he was the closest to them, but then he obviously had that run of bad luck. Like, literally the whole, like, since Russia, Lando's just been, like, he's not actually driving, but he's driving really well.
Yeah, he got another puncture, did it? Or Sunday?
So he got a puncture in Qatar, he got a puncture in Saudi. In Saudi he was ruined under the red flag.
Yeah.
He got a puncture in the other race, in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Bro, his luck has... Russia, they screwed up the thingy. He's been having such bad luck.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, like he was saying, I want the season to end, and like Ricardo is saying this, and you understand why they want the season to be over. It's just like, yeah, I just want this bad luck to end.
Well, once again, we're just getting started on the race. We're still on lap 1, because going into turn 7, Max goes for another late dive on Lewis. This is, as we were saying before, his soft tyres. You know, he needs to get ahead of him for the strategy to work. You can't just watch Lewis drive off into the sunset. So he gives it a go. He dives up the inside, goes all the way to the white line. Everyone's saying he kept his car on the track. I would argue he didn't leave any space on the other side. But then Lewis goes through Narnia and back to cut the corner, get back on, and he has a big advantage.
Very, very, very big advantage.
The stewards say he gave back this advantage before the lap ended.
Bro, I don't trust the stewards. Honestly.
To be fair, we were watching the race together. At the time, I was defending their decision. I can't trust anything the stewards do anymore, to be honest.
What are they talking about, bro? Honestly, I think that's the thing. Like, there are the rules, fair enough. We'll listen to the rules. The rules are great, but the way you implement the rules matters.
Yeah.
So the race director or the stewards, they're gonna implement the rules in a certain way, and I think that's the thing. It's like you implement it in a certain way. Charlie Whiting used to implement it in a certain way. That's okay, as long as you're consistent with the way you implement it. Yeah. Max did this overtake a few times. He was fine, no penalty, nothing. If Lewis had cost him, he'd have got the position back, all that stuff. And now he's being told not even an investigation. It wasn't even noted, bro.
No.
So when you see that stuff, you're like, what are you guys talking about? Like, it's not just inconsistency. You're so inconsistent. It's painful to watch.
It's stupid. And the thing is, when I said I looked at the regulations, I didn't look at the sporting ones, the ones to do with racing, all of this, but I know for a fact there's a rule about leaving a car's width when you're driving. Like in the braking zone and all of this, and leaving a car's width. Well, I'm sure there's other stuff and whatever it is, but the point is, there are incidents like this. It happens all the time. Someone goes up the inside, doesn't leave the other one room. There are 5 seconds handed out.
Career on this kind of stuff, and he pushed people out, and it's okay.
Then there's obviously the leaving the track and gaining an unfair advantage. These are quotes that we can make from the regulations that everyone knows about purely because they happen so often. And if it's something that, this isn't like a weird tweak or a weird quirk in the regulation. This is what racing's about. Every time 2 drivers go side by side, if this is likely to happen now. So of all things to be inconsistent with, it's something that happens weekend in, weekend out. And it's just embarrassing to watch, to be honest. Like, whatever you're going to do with that situation, whether you say Lewis should have given the place back, whether you say Max should have given him room, whatever it was, there's an argument from both sides now. Like, before it would have been like, because of the inconsistency. Like, the same way Max complained about his penalty in Qatar because he said it was fine in Brazil.
Exactly.
Like, it's
it
just
was Saudi, it was in Qatar. The interesting thing is, I forgot what I was going to say. Was it Jolyon Palmer who mentioned this? He was commenting on, this is the first year where we can actually hear the stewards.
Oh God, yeah.
Michael Massey, sorry. And basically, if you actually look at it, like Toto and like, this is why I don't think Michael Massey should stay. I think Michael Massey should go. But it's because Toto and Christian just, for fun, they just bully him into doing what they want. Let's be honest.
He does get bullied. He gets bullied by both of them.
Like, that's the funny thing is, he gave up on that, and he's like, the moment he just broke, was literally at the end of the race when Toto was like asking him, and then he's like, it's called motor racing. That's when he just like hung up. That's like, they mentioned something where people can lodge a complaint. The like Michael Massey or the race director, like, press a button, I've seen your message. You won't get a reply from him, and then he makes
That's already there.
No, but he's talking to them.
I know, yeah, that's what I mean. I was thinking, like, where anywhere else in the world would you find someone in a high place of authority able to talk directly to someone in a lower place? Because these are the team bosses we're talking about, and then the director of everything that's going on, the race director. They should be talking to some secretary or like, do you know, I'm not trying to like demean the position or whatever it is, but like, Massey should have a right-hand man, right-hand woman, someone sat there, they take the complaints, they hear what's going on, and then they feed through the important stuff. Toto's screaming, I beg you don't send out a safety car or whatever.
Yeah, that's
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's insane.
like they have no respect for him at all. And I'm hearing there's reports and stuff and all of this, whatever. They're saying that most of the team bosses have lost trust in him.
Yeah, they
and a
wanted
lot
to
of the
leave.
drivers don't really care about him.
That's the thing. I think he's not had that like firm grip from the beginning, because you're dealing like F1 is just people with big egos.
Yeah.
Like everyone there has a massive ego, and so you can't.
Almost the size of their bank account.
Yeah, you can't essentially stroke someone's ego. You have to just be like firm with all of them. Like, this is the way I'm running it. You either like it or, well, you just leave. I don't care, to be honest. Like, that's the way you should.
If he did that at the start of the year,
but
then,
that's the thing. He did none of this, and then he's like, "Oh, why are we losing the champ? Because what are you doing, bro?"
Right. Okay. That runs turn 7. We'll get into the middle of the race, and the desperation from Massey as it starts to build now. I'd say we're in the middle of the race. Lewis has now extended his gap. It's like 11 seconds or whatever. Max's tires are now dying, so he pits. Mercedes do exactly what they need to do, and they just cover it.
They pit again.
They pit as well, so that just ruins any chance of Red Bull being able to do anything. That leads on to, Verstappen getting stuck behind Sainz for a little bit, but he makes the move. I was thinking this was going to end up like 2010, where he just gets stuck behind Sainz for like 20 laps and then it's over. But
the new track gave him the chance to overtake.
The new layout was good. It did turn out to be
much better than last year.
Definitely.
Or the year before.
And then we get on to, after Lewis has pitted, the gap to Perez suddenly creeps down, and we get onto some of the best on-track action we've seen for quite a while, I'd say.
When it's Lewis and Perez, you always get really good racing, and it's always very fair racing.
Yeah.
Like he did it in Turkey as well, where he held up Lewis, and he did it, like where he overtook him. It was incredible driving. Lewis is like, oh, it's dangerous driving, bro. Like, that's the thing. Perez did nothing. Like, Perez was very, very, very fair.
He was smart, yeah. He was parking it on the apex, but it was very smart and fair. And obviously, Lewis can't complain after 2016.
He said exactly. That's the thing. He was like, I think he's complaining because he's backing. Like, he was backing.
He's complaining because he's going slow in the apex.
Bro, you were doing that to like Nico Rosberg for like the whole race. What are you talking about? Like, this is what I don't like. Like, that's just a level of hypocrisy where you literally did it for a whole race. You did it for 2 laps, so you're like, dangerous driving. What dangerous driving? You didn't do anything, bro. If he slows down on the straight, fair enough, you can say dangerous driving. But he's not slowing down on straights, he's slowing down on like the apex, which is like, you're a few car lengths behind him, so it's fine.
I mean, so I heard, watching it back and then hearing people talk about it, obviously it was very smart from Perez and he did very well. Like, it was fair, and it was like, I don't know. It was just clever. It was very clever. Like, if he goes too slow, Lewis is just going to go around him. But if he goes too fast, he's not holding him up. So the fact that he balanced it that well, and he held him up and he did this, obviously Lewis is going to be cautious. On his old soft tyres from the start of the race, he saved up. The reason Lewis caught up to him so fast is because he was saving his tyres, saving his battery. And then he does all of this. Suddenly, Lewis's 8-second gap becomes literally nothing, and Verstappen's right there behind him.
Verstappen reached a point where he was 4 tenths behind Lewis. For like a second, and then it went up, like when Lewis overtook Perez, it went up to like 1.2, 1.3.
That's when I saw it, yeah. Like 1.2. But it was quality driving. Everyone's praising Perez. The funny part is...
Checo, you're a legend.
The funniest part is I'm seeing people talk about... Here's the interesting thing. With Perez and Lewis, they're giving each other cars whips, they're going side by side, all of this. People are saying Max could never do that, and the reason we don't see Lewis and Max doing this is because the moment one of them gets alongside the other one, you send the other one off the track, no penalty, off you go, drive into the sunset. And that's why I'm saying, like, I don't like this whole, whoever's the lead car, whoever's got the apex, whoever has the racing line, they can do what they want, and the other car just has to disappear. Like, that's just so stupid. It's not hard racing. It's just dumb. And you can't say, oh yeah, we'll shove a gravel trap in there, because there's videos being made, or videos that have been made years ago, about how stupid gravel traps are, and how, in general, they can be very dangerous. Like, it's not guaranteed to slow the car down. There is a possibility the car will just skip across the gravel trap and end up in the barrier. The gravel itself, if it ends up on the track, could cause a VSC. No one wants to see that. It just ruins the racing. There's a lot of talk about things about gravel traps and stuff. You can't just shove a gravel trap anywhere. I get that someone in the YouTube comments, they call them like painted car park tracks. which is fair, and I get it, and it looks ugly, but at the same time, it's still better than a gravel trap. You can't do that. Like, the gravel traps are gone there. If no new track nowadays, I'd be very surprised to see a gravel trap in a new
No,
track.
probably not. I think if they put like a very tight circuit like Saudi, where it's just like you're in the wall, or they'd have like big runoff areas. That's probably what they do. Because it's a lot easier to maintain as well.
Yeah, completely. Exactly. So, grass, even grass as well, you're probably not seeing that. Grass does an awful job of slowing the cars down. So,
If it's wet.
even if it's dry, like if you
No, I'm
imagine,
saying if it's wet, it slows them down very much.
yeah,
Plus,
But
they
then you
go,
wouldn't-
they go fully off as well.
yeah, but
think,
you wouldn't
think
want
George
to.
and Imola.
That's what I mean, yeah, but it
His
slows
tyres
them
is
down
good.
because one tyre was on it. If you imagine that was there in place of the tarmac runoff, he's just skidding across that grass and
Exactly.
going into a barrier.
Basically.
So, for safety, gravel traps are basically dead. So are tracks like Spa, probably, realistically. Not saying that we're going to leave it, but we're probably never going to see a track built like that again. Seeing as it wasn't even built in the first place.
No. As in, you're not saying Spa's a dead track.
No,
You're
no, oh my god, no.
You said, because that's what you just said, bro.
I'm saying tracks like Spa will be dead in the future because they're just going to construct a straight track like Saudi.
Exactly.
Or they're going to make a track like, I don't know, also, they're just going to make these kind of tracks for... I actually had this down because Abu Dhabi's now signed a contract. They're going to be on the calendar until 2030. All I'm saying is it sounds like, rather than F1 going to places like Vietnam, actually having a race in Africa, they're saying South Africa, could come back.
South
People want
Africa's
it to
such a
come.
great race as well.
They want it to come back. Instead, they're going to have 3 tracks in America, or whatever it is. As big as America is, fair enough, cool. But then on top of that, they're just going to have these...
That's why the season.
They're just going to have...
That's what. This is one thing Liberty Media is doing that I don't like as much. Is essentially the season's just getting longer and longer, and you can see like a driver like Daniel Ricciardo, like 5-6 races ago. He's just I want the season to end, and it's just because it's too much. It's too long. Like you're gonna have 3 in America and like 5, I think. No, like Qatar, Saudi.
We're going to have 14. Every single oil money track trying to get diversify their income is going to end up having an F1 track.
No, Singapore's actually really nice, but like I'm thinking 3 in America. No, 2. To be fair, we only have 2 confirmed in America, but like
they're trying to get the next one.
They're getting the 3rd one. So say 3 there, and then we have in the Middle East. You have like is it 3 or 4?
Bahrain, Qatar, Abu Dhabi.
4. In Saudi.
Saudi, yeah.
So that's 7 races. Just.
Yeah, it's
To be fair, I don't mind the Middle East races because they're actually quite nice.
It's cool and it's
But
nice.
I don't like the American races because the races are actually boring.
I just don't want them all there.
Miami, they just converted the like.
Oh, it was a car park. Yeah,
bro, like Formula 1 is
Vietnam has disappeared as well. Like Vietnam was meant to be on the track, but on the calendar, but because of COVID, it gets taken off, and now it's just vanished into the distance because it can't handle the money that's being thrown at the calendar now. The calendar is basically a bid war.
But
honestly, the calendar's turning into a bid war.
But this is the thing. This is what you get when like F1's commercialized to this degree. They just want to make money, and so okay, you give us a lot of money and put your track on. Does it matter that? To be fair, Europe is gonna. I don't see them removing races from Europe because the races in Europe have way too much history.
And the fan base is predominantly in Europe.
Yeah, exactly. So Europe is not going anywhere. But they're gonna put a lot of races in America, a lot of races in the Middle East, which is just gonna get a lot of money. Yeah. And then, this is the thing. Like you can do a lot more races in the Far East. That's the thing. Like there's a big market there.
Completely, especially now. I think they might be saying they want to do another China race, obviously because of Zhou. So it's all politics already. You get a Chinese driver on the grid, let's go to China. You get a Dutch driver on the grid and he's doing well, let's go to Zandvoort. To be fair, I can't argue with Zandvoort. Like it deserves to be on the calendar and all of this, especially with the Dutch fans. Like you can't deny them a race. But it's just you can tell where this is going now.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on from that. No one really wants to see that. So we've just got to the point where Lewis has passed Perez. Perez gets out of the way. Lewis extends the gap from Max again. He stretches his lead until Giovinazzi stops, brings out a VSC, and Max pits again. Everyone arguing that Lewis should pit and all of this stuff or whatever it is, complaining about the Mercedes strategy. Throughout the whole race, there was no point pitting again, realistically. The car ahead, the ideal strategy was a one-stop. They were on the ideal strategy.
No, but
There's
I think,
nothing else
I think
they
at
really
that
could've done.
point there is an argument they should have pitted under the VSC just because if a safety car happened.
You can't even say that though.
No, but
'Cause
that's the
there's-
if they pitted under thingy, was it VSC? He would have given up track position, isn't it?
He
But
would
see,
have given up track
that's the
position
thing.
every time. Every time people say he should have pitted under this or that, he would have given up track position.
Obviously, the people are saying that with hindsight, like as in,
Yeah, exactly.
in
You
hindsight,
can't
he should
complain.
have done that. But I'd say the one thing I'd say is, I expected them to pit him under the VSC
I didn't.
because he would have even if he lost track position.
Yeah, but you can't do that. You said right at the start, there's no way he gets past Max, which is why you don't.
No,
put
I
Max
think
in
I
the
think
first
he would
place.
have gotten past Max with the performance he had. That's like
You
it
can't
would
say
have
that
it would
now,
have been
that's
hard. That's the thing. I agree, it would have been hard.
But they would have both
But-
pitted.
Oh yeah, but even then,
Or even if
Lewis
they
had
didn't.
superior performance. But if like anything happened and they crashed, Max is disqualified.
Yeah, but you can't bet on that, and you can tell why they didn't bet on that when we get to the end of the race.
But then they were screwed up because of that. See,
They were screwed at all
the reason
points.
you know why I say this is based on purely if you go and watch like older races like Abu Dhabi races, you generally get like at least a safety car, like a safety car in a VSC or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
But
based
you
on
can't
that,
bet on
based on that. No, but that's the thing that like in Saudi, the whole red flag. Like, no, like when you've raced at a track before, the idea
Yeah.
is you know that okay, like we're gonna get say 2 safety cars or 1 safety car. So you base your strategy on that, but they didn't take that into account, and that hurt them on the longer run because obviously there was the other part of Michael Massey going in, but like. It did hurt them.
I'd say you can't base your strategy around there being a thing. It was a one-stop, so even if they based it around that, for them to have based their strategy on a safety car or VSC, they would have had to extend the first stint and go longer on the hards because that was the only pit stop they were making. You can't. The 2-stop was too slow.
He stopped
So-
way too early for like Hamilton stopped way too. I was surprised he stopped.
Yeah, but
that
if you
early.
leave him out for too long, Verstappen gets an undercut.
No,
it's
but
all
like he
track
was like
position.
10 seconds ahead.
Even then, they just didn't want to risk anything. You just
No,
cover him off.
but that see, this is where their logic is a bit shocking to be honest. Is he's 10 seconds ahead, and he's still setting like quick, like fastest laps. Why did you bring him in for new tires? Leave him, and then if a VSC happens, you bring him. If it doesn't happen, you put him much later in the race. For the end of the race, he has track position and much fresher tires than Max. That's why I don't get why did you bring him in?
To be perfectly honest,
Like-
at the time we both
like
had
that's-
this.
they did that-
I
they
was
did that-
agreeing with you at the time.
They did it in Qatar. But Qatar isn't like that's the thing. Qatar is like you're not really gonna get safety cars there. There's so much runoff. They're just gonna run off and come back in. So I get you just doing what Red Bull was doing there, but in Abu Dhabi you know someone's gonna crash eventually. So you have to take that into account. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they should have saved perhaps they shouldn't have pitted twice, but they should have extended the first stint and pitted much later.
Okay, yeah.
Because then they take into account, if there is a safety car and Max is closer, Lewis is on much fresher tires and he can actually keep him behind.
I almost see that, yeah. But I'd say there's
I'm
the whole
saying-
argument about gaps and stuff. Like they need to find a gap in the midfield to be able to bring him out and all of this.
But Ineos
On
had to
top of that.
overtake 6 back markers.
That was at the end. That was
That
was
fairly
unrelated.
early.
no. This was after the stops and stuff. He was going through them afterwards. This was later.
Yeah, but if he spent 10 more laps, he'd have been fine. No 10 more laps, but say 10 more laps.
I get the argument for extending the stint. I get it, but I also get why they didn't do that. Like it's just another.
But that's
thing
why
like
they
that,
lost the
I don't know.
championship.
That is not why they lost. That is
Yeah.
definitely not why they
That
lost
is-
the championship.
No,
That is
but I
completely
will
not why they
say
lost the
one thing.
championship.
I will
We'll
say
get
one
onto
thing.
that.
The past few years, Mercedes has had their calls in terms of strategy and stuff has been much better than this year.
Yeah, true. That's true.
I think bad calls or semi-bad calls this year have put them at a disadvantage.
True. Yeah.
Which in previous years I think they would have taken advantage of the VSC or the safety car or changed up their thingy somehow,
Yes, but the problem is they were ahead. If
Yeah,
they were in
but
Red
that's
Bull's
the-
position and they were behind, they could have done all
Bottas,
of
the
that.
way Bottas was when Verstappen pitted, he could have actually come out behind Bottas. The way they were going, he was within Verstappen's window.
Yes, but I don't think Bottas had pitted at this point.
How do you know?
I don't think so now. Obviously, he was on.
They could have just left him out on track. Probably useless, bro. They could have just left him.
They would have left him out on track
Honestly.
for the embarrassment.
No,
Bottas
no,
on
just-
his mediums from the start of the race up against Max.
Just
They're
like-
like, do something, bro, do something. After Perez, you know what?
Perez-
You see
Perez-
what Perez did? You try and do that.
Perez did it on softs, bro.
I know, that's why I'm saying they would have been like, you see what
Exactly.
Perez did? Do some of that. And then Max,
Defend
Max
like,
passes him instantly.
defend like a lion.
He defends like a ginger cat, to be honest. It's actually awful. It's so
But I
bad.
say they should have, based on previous data, at least taken that into account with their strategy. Maybe not.
They
maybe
just can't.
one
If it was
stop-
a two-stop race, then
one
fine.
stop,
but it
no,
wasn't.
but one stop, but then extend your first stint. Because if something happens later on, you have fresher tires to fight at the end. That's all I'm
I
saying.
see, okay,
because based
yeah.
on previous data, you know there's going to be a safety car at some
You
point.
don't know that.
No, but that's why you actually, if you look at like their analysis of the races and stuff, they actually look at previous safety cars and percentages of this stuff.
Yeah, they look at the
And they
percentage
take the-
chance of a safety car,
they
but
take
you never know
into
when it's
account-
going to happen and all this.
Obviously you don't know, but you take that into account with your strategy.
Yeah.
They ignored all of that. They're useless, bro.
I still see why they did what they did, and either way, at the end of the day, it's completely useless anyway. Because what happened was, Max pits, he tries to catch up, everyone's like, right, this is it, Max Verstappen, fast laps, go for it, Lewis is on old hards, try and catch up. And he does try, to be fair to him, but the gap ends up, it goes down from 18 to 11 and it
But as soon as the
stops, and
safety
that's
car
it.
is called, Max goes in for softs.
This is afterwards, so him now on his, I'm talking before this, he's
No,
on,
I'm talking.
he's on his hards.
I'm talking about like Red Bull's reaction to the VSC and the safety
No,
cars.
sure, we're not
way
there yet.
better
We're
than
not
Mercedes.
there yet. We're not there yet.
No, we're talking about Mercedes. Is like their reaction to the VSC and safety car was never as good as Red Bull.
But it couldn't be because he was ahead.
Nah.
Bro, you're saying that Lewis Hamilton is winning the race, right? He's winning the race by 11 seconds. There's 7 laps to go and a safety car. Or was it 5?
Oh no, I'm saying with
It
the
was
VSC.
5.
If he stopped with the VSC, he would have come back. If he comes out like right behind him.
I swear you said yourself, the VSC when it came out, he was past the line anyway.
He was past the line, but if he stopped on the second one,
Then he
come
would
out
have,
right
no, then
ahead.
the safety car ended while he would have been in the thing. I think the safety car ended as he was on the start-finish straight, which means that if he went into the VSC, sorry, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So if he went into pit, the VSC would have ended as he was in the pits.
So
and then
you
Max would
still
have
had
passed
like
him.
a massive gap.
Bro, you can't do this. You can't just say give up track position, and then
Give
go
up
and do
track
this.
like.
You can't do that.
You
can't
keep
do
saying
that.
he's Lewis. He'll overtake Max. You're the one who's saying I'll overtake.
I know, but
Max."
I'm not trying to risk having him behind Max for Max to go and crash into him, am I?
But
I'm
then
not
that's
trying
the
to
thing.
do
If that's what Michael Massey said at the beginning. If he crashes into him, it's gonna be obvious and he's gonna get a disqualification. But
Sure,
to
but
be
I
fair-
still don't trust Max to let him go.
To
do I?
be fair, like he could have like
We saw the
Lewis
turn 1
was-
dive. That was lap 1 of the race.
exactly.
And to be fair, he pulled off. I'm not saying that was dangerous, but he went for it clearly.
Exactly.
So I'm saying that I wouldn't be surprised if Lewis was put behind him, he would have crashed. I mean, we saw afterwards Lewis on his 40-lap-old hards on the last lap. He was weaving all over the place.
Oh, Max.
Yeah. That wasn't dangerous. I know he was ahead, but he got a black and white flag for that in Brazil.
He was no. But in Brazil, he was much closer.
It was probably the same thing.
No.
realistically.
He was much like if you're much further ahead, you can weave some, but you can't weave when you're in Brazil. He was much closer to the car. So that's
Either way,
that's why it's dangerous.
what I'm saying is that's not what lost them the championship, because then the
No,
safety
but I'm
car
not saying
comes
that's
out.
what lost them the championship. I'm saying they could have done better. That's what I'm saying.
You can always say they could have done better.
No, but that's the thing. They take the percentage into everything, and then with this one, they don't.
They
do
definitely run the numbers on that.
nonsense, bro.
These are like Oxford graduates running
Exactly.
with supercomputers, bro. Of course
But
they
that's
took the
thing.
numbers
But that's
into
the
account.
No, you can't actually say that this year. This year, their strategy has been bad, bro. Except
There have been a
for
few
like
that
for
have
like no. Except for like 2 races, I think, where they won on strategies, like Barcelona and like Portimao or something. The rest of the strategy course have just been bad.
There's been a few horrendous ones. Russia was
Yes.
good. Hungary was horrific. But again,
Russia,
Hungary
okay,
they suffered
Russia.
because of
Russia and then Barcelona. I think they won on strategy.
yeah Barcelona. was
And
that.
Portimao essentially.
I haven't known.
Those were the
that
3
race.
ones where they actually did well. Everything else is just.
Bahrain, you could say. Sort of. That was risky. But it's just the thing. If you're the lead car, you can't make an audacious move because you're just giving up track position for no reason. If you're the lead car, you wait, you do what you want, and if you're behind, you take all the risks. Because as we saw, when Max pitted again under the actual safety car, when Latifi crashed on lap 53, they just shoved Perez in the pits and said, "Listen, we're gonna have to retire you." They say
that's very suspicious.
So here's the funny thing: they say this is because of an engine issue. There's word on Ted
Oil
Kravitz's
and
street.
water, issue.
That's what they said officially. Word on the street from Ted Kravitz himself is that he said this is a conspiracy theory, so this isn't even like it's information coming from him. He says they underfueled Perez so that he wouldn't finish anyway, with the idea
so
that he probably
defend
would
from Lewis much better.
Exactly, which I wouldn't be that surprised. But the moment he comes out after pitting...
No, but that actually doesn't make a lot of sense because
Yeah.
Perez was very surprised on the radio when they told him to retire. If he was under fuel, he would have known he's under fuel.
He's a great actor.
No.
I'm joking. Yeah.
I think it's more... He was ahead of Max. He was one of the cars he had to overtake.
Yes.
If they just retire him because he has less cars to overtake, then that's the reason.
If they did, it's fair enough. And that's what they said.
I don't think it's actually the underfuel. I think it's just the case where he's gonna have more cars to overtake under blue flags.
I completely
so just
agree
take
with that. Yeah,
Perez out
definitely.
of the.
Yeah.
That's one less he has to overtake.
True. And that's what made them.
And at that point, they were not gonna win the championship anyways, like the constructor. So it didn't make any difference.
Yeah, completely. So that's why Perez retired. So the safety car is now going round. We're on the second to last lap, and all the lapped cars are still between Max and Lewis and between everyone else. I actually have the order that they were in beforehand.
I'm surprised he didn't let
What do you reckon?
The way he did it was weird. So he could have let he could have done. I think they did 3 laps under safety car.
It was 53. There's 58 in total.
Yeah. So
I think Lewis might have crossed the line, so I don't know if it was 53 or 54. The accident was 50.
So
it would have been 53, sorry, yeah.
Say 4 laps under a safety car. What surprised me is they cleared the track out in 2 laps. So he could have legitimately at the 3rd lap let them go, let all the cars unlap themselves, give them a whole lap to build a gap, and then let Lewis and Max race for the last lap. If he'd done that, no one had complained because he's done everything by the books. Now, the reason people are complaining is because he went and said, you're not going to be allowed to overtake. And if he didn't do that, by the books, he's actually doing nothing wrong. People would have been upset, you ruined the show, this.
I think technically
By
they have to. As much as
No,
they said
no.
I think they said in commentary that you don't have to let
You
them
don't
pass.
have. It's up to
I
the.
think it says that he
No,
does.
it's up to the race director, like Michael Massey said.
Yeah.
It's up to him. Either he can let all the cars go, or let none of the cars go, keep the order. And then there's this rule, this overarching rule, which when it comes to safety, you can do whatever you want. Once.
I'll get onto that because I completely disagree.
But essentially, he did not follow this rule. He did not follow this rule, and he just ended up. The reason people are annoyed is he said the cars are not going to be unlapped, and based on that, Mercedes were like, okay, you know what? We don't need to pit. We don't want to. We don't need to pit because if we pit, we give up track position. And Max is anyways 5 cars down the road. He's not going to be able in 1 lap to overtake 5 cars and reach us. If the race had ended under safety car, no one would have said anything. Safety and stuff, no one can say anything. If he had let all the cars go with 2 laps and then 1 lap of racing, no one would have said anything. He said none of the cars are passing. Then he let only the cars between Max and Lewis pass. And then, it's the opportunity they got to bring up Brazil again. And they just could not let it go. He didn't even give them, he has to give them a lap to build up a gap before he did not do any of that. Why?
So
why?
Yeah.
Bro!
So we'll start from before. There's a crash. His options are red flag, safety car, red flag or safety car, we'll start there.
I think red flag's
flag
fine. If you red flagged it, everyone would have been happy.
Here's the thing. He spoke to Sky Sports beforehand, to Corinne Chaddock or someone. There was a crash in practice where I think Kimi crashed there, and they said, if someone crashes there, do you reckon that's a red flag? And he goes, nah, it's a safety car. He says it's not worth it, it's a safety car. And the whole point of the VSC is so that it disrupts the racing less than the safety car. The whole point of the safety car is so it disrupts the racing less than the red flag. Because otherwise, if you don't have the VSC in the safety car, you red flag it for every tiny incident. So he's like, let's keep it going, safety car. I get that because it's less of a disruption. Looking back, a red flag would have made sense, but that only would have made sense if we're admitting that he's going to do this for the show. Because it would have been a fair fight to the end, but a red flag would have meant he's doing it because of the show, not because of safety. I know the red flag is safer than a safety car technically.
No, but you can also look at it that the race is going to end under the safety car, which is possible, but...
So here's the next option. He's now released, he's let the safety car out. They're doing safety car laps. They have to wait until the track is completely safe. Then they start this procedure. Now, the articles that people are quoting, 48 as a whole refers to the safety car. 0.12 is about the lapped cars. 0.13 is about how it ends. The lapped cars one, it says when the track is safe, you let all the cars go. It says, here's the confusing thing though. It says if it's unsafe, you don't let them through. So if we're interpreting this properly, the way I see it is, if it's safe, the lapped cars have to unlap themselves.
No.
But before, even in commentary, Sky Sports were saying, oh yeah, you know, if he wants to let them go, he can let them go. If he doesn't want to let them go, that's fine. I think I've seen both situations before. So that's nothing new. If he let them unlap themselves, or if he didn't let them unlap themselves, perfectly fine. The breach, and what Mercedes are now complaining about, is he's only let the cars between Lewis and Max go. This is wrong on so many levels.
He did it as well with like 30 seconds of notice. He's like, so he said the cars are not unlapping themselves, and then like 30 seconds later he's like, no, the cars can unlap themselves.
Yeah.
He's like, he got a call from the head of Liberty. He's like, don't ruin the show.
Honestly, the U-turn was inspired by Boris Johnson. Like, he went in, he came in, he said the thing, he said what they're going to do, they're not going to unlap themselves. He realises he's not going to be able to let them unlap themselves in time. No, wait, sorry. He says he's not letting them through. Then he realises, hold on, there's no way Max can have a proper fight with Lewis. Not saying he's trying to be biased to Max, he's trying to create some Netflix drama. So he goes, oh, wait, hold on, we've got to let some of them through. But I can't let all of them through because then we won't have time. All right, you know what, you five, go. Which is so wrong because, first of all, it's a clear breach of the regulations. Second, since when were Lewis and Max the only drivers on the course? Like, I know technically the only people the casual fans care about are the two title contenders. But if I go here to what I've written down, we've got between Verstappen and Sainz, P2 and 3, Daniel Ricciardo and Lance Stroll were there. Mick Schumacher was between Bottas and Tsunoda. Now, Tsunoda got past Bottas in the end, fair enough. And so did Gasly as well. They both got past him on the final lap. But what if they didn't? Like, you're not giving them a fair opportunity. If you're giving Max Verstappen a fair opportunity to have a go at Hamilton at the end of the race,
you should give
everyone a fair opportunity to make the pass. So everyone's saying if Latifi crashed a lap before all of this, sure, perfectly fine. If Latifi crashes a lap before, the safety procedure is followed, and all the lapped cars are allowed to unlap themselves. Everyone has a fight to, whatever.
But that's the thing. He could have let the cars unlap themselves earlier because the track was clear.
I don't know about this.
No, the track was clear. You could see the track was clear. The marshals were off the track, so he could have let them through. But at that point, he wasn't going to let them through. Like,
no, I think he still rushed it, to be honest.
But that's the, if he'd red flagged it and he's like, okay, it's not that big of a crash that he'd red flag it. To be honest, I don't expect
that still would have been slightly dodgy, but it would have.
But
it wouldn't have been against the. It wouldn't have been a complete breach of the regulations.
Actually, it would have been better for Lewis. But no, if he red flags it, no one actually can. Like, he can just say because it's in such a tight part of the track, so he can say that, you know, at this point it's on the racing line as well.
There's an argument there.
There is a really good argument for it being a red flag. I expected him to red flag because it's on the racing line. There's debris across the track. You're putting marshals in danger. All of this stuff. Just red flag it and start from the beginning. It's good for Lewis. He puts on new tires, defends, wins. Yeah, a bit of action at the end, I guess. But the way he did it just ruined everything. He ruined it for Lewis. It ruined it for Max fans, and I think it's like, I don't think Max is upset because he's just world champion.
He would be upset it would ruin his celebrations if Merck then went and launched their protest.
But then I think
Completely
it
fair
ruins
enough
the
to them.
sport. It ruins the sport
Yeah,
because
definitely.
because now like people who are getting into the sport and they were so excited. Like this season has been incredible. I was telling my friend is like you never get like his first season watching Formula One is this.
Is he the guy you were on the phone with?
Yeah, you're never gonna get a season like this, and they ruined it at the end by doing what they did, and it's just like why them?
It's stupid. Like the sport is a joke now. Like you said, we've got football players now chatting. We've got Gary Lineker now talking about all of this. I saw Trevor Noah trying to chat. Trevor Noah goes, "Oh yeah, I know it's bad, but you know, a controversial race is better than a boring one." I'm like, shut up, man. Then like everyone's talking about it. It's been trending on Twitter. It's been all over the place.
But then that might be
Everyone talking.
That might be their goal to just get F1 to like.
Here's the thing, like, is it very American of them to go, oh, you know, bad, no publicity is bad publicity or something. Let's just make the sport a complete joke. Anyway, I know Max fans are gonna be like, oh, you know, what about all of this, whatever. The thing is, with everyone's had their swings of luck this year. The tyre was completely unlucky. The Bottas crash was completely unlucky. This is completely different purely because someone went and, through no fault of Max's, and no one's saying he doesn't deserve the title, we're just saying he got outclassed today, and the only thing that made him win was Massey clearly breaking the rules to try and create a show.
No, but then,
it's not unlucky.
The one thing I think like Mercedes are not going to win this is the clause that he under the safety car he has complete control of the race and complete.
Yeah, we didn't get onto this, right?
Yeah, so Michael Massey can do whatever he wants under the safety car. He has the powers to do. See, this is what surprises me. He could have done this at any point that like they could come to him, like at any point during the race, and he could be like, "This is what I think. This is how it's gonna be."
So here's the problem I have. That's why I don't believe that.
In the last lap of the last race, like he's just creating drama, bro. Like
he's in it. No, he's a Netflix spawned bot. But what I'm saying, same way Will Buxton is a F1 sponsored bot. What I'm saying is, so Article 15 now, we're talking separate. That was 48 about the safety car. 15 is about the stewards, the officials, the people who police the sport. 15.3 is talking about the race director, Michael Massey. And it says he has overall authority or something like this over a bunch of clauses, A, B, C, D, whatever. And the last one, E, is the safety car. You've interpreted this as, oh, that means he can do what he wants with the safety car.
Basically. Yeah.
Personally, I see this because in
But
context... Hold on. In context of 15 as a whole, not just 0.3, in context of 15 as a whole, it's under the sub-bracket, all of the officials. It references the clerk of the track, who's basically the local official owner of the track of Abu Dhabi. It talks about the other stewards, the people making the decisions. You know how the race director, Michael Massey, says, give the place back, otherwise I let the stewards investigate it, which is referencing a different three sets of, three people who make the decisions. I'm saying the overall authority is in reference to these other people. So this overall authority argument, it actually means, for me, and quite a few other people are saying this as well, it doesn't mean he can just go off and break the rules if he really wants to. It means
it's
he
based
can
on precedent.
overrule other people's decisions.
But it's based on precedent. He can just go do people are saying he can go do whatever he wants, because it's not like, obviously it's written in like, that's why lawyers are getting involved.
Yeah.
But as long as you can prove that it's ambiguous enough, then fair enough. Okay. Well, you know what they're saying makes sense. We can't overturn it because under this clause, he's given the authority. So he's given the authority over the safety car. He can do whatever he wants under the safety car. It's not like the line is not like obvious. Like it's not like you have to let all the cars through or let none of the cars through.
That one is.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Like, but it's overruled by this one because he has full authority, does he not? So
that
that's
one's
the whole
stupid.
point.
That one's really stupid.
That's the whole point of like. That's
the
why the lawyers are getting involved.
Yeah, because here's the other overruling thing. The argument they made. Honestly, Red Bull's argument, reading them in the thing, it was awful. They were so bad. I don't know how. Obviously, I can see how they didn't overrule the decision about the championship. The FIA weren't going to admit that they've done this completely wrong. But the second thing that they ruined, so we've said about the cars overtaking or not and that drama. Once you let the lap cars through, you have to give them at least Well, it doesn't say at least a lap. It says the following lap you bring the safety car in if it's safe to do so. So these cars get
So
let
one
off,
lap, essentially.
go off you go, you can drive round, just get out the way basically. And then you do another lap to give them enough chance to drive off, get out the way, catch up to everyone else. And then you bring the safety car in. What he did was he let them go and then brought the safety car in within like the same sector. Like, what is that? It was so desperate. Honestly, it was so desperate. Like, it was so blatant. It's a clear
That's what I'm
breach of the
saying.
rules.
That's what I'm saying. If he only cared about the show, he should have just red flagged it.
Yeah, it would have
And
been.
like
Let's just
standing
say
start.
he's cheated it, and he hasn't even cheated it in a smart way.
Exactly.
Realistically,
He's
like,
done
it's
it in
stupid.
such a bad way that it just reflects very badly on this. I think at this point,
Exactly.
Michael
Bro,
Massey has
it's
to
so
go.
bad. If I was trying to steal your glasses, I wouldn't steal them when they're on your face. I would take them when they're in your bag. Like, bro, it's a robbery. Like, what's he trying to do? It's so stupid. I can't be.
See, I
bothered.
think
Honestly,
at
can't
the
be
end
bothered.
of the day, like everyone who talks, I don't think it's Max's fault.
No, yeah.
I think
sorry,
under
we
the
didn't get onto this
circumstances,
properly.
I think under circumstances, Max did and Red Bull did what the best they could do. They took advantage of the VSC, they took advantage of the safety car, and they won it in the end based on the cars they were dealt. Now I think the issue is different in terms of I think if the International Court of Appeals or whatever or the higher one, if they come to a conclusion, my guess is they're not gonna take it from Verstappen. I don't see them doing that because it's not his fault.
Yeah.
It's not Red Bull's fault.
No.
I think
But it also isn't Mercedes' fault. That's the weird.
Exactly. So I think it would to kind of give back to Mercedes, like to balance kind of the all this, like essentially be dumped on the FIA and the stewards and race.
I see that. Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Yeah.
I
They
see
would
him getting
punish-
fired essentially.
Yeah, you'd say they'd probably punish the FIA, but they wouldn't want to overturn the decision because it's unfair on everyone. So here's the next point. F1's now in a lose-lose situation. If Mercedes go through with this, even if they don't go through with this, the amount of publicity on this controversy now, and pretty much everyone knowing it's a clear breach of the regulations, whether you like it or not, obviously it's in some people's favour, it isn't in other people's. The point is, if Mercedes go through with it now, or whether they don't go through with it, the end of the race was filled with controversy. F1 fans are now arguing about this issue and what's going on. We're all saying, Max fans or Lewis fans, we're all saying Massey out. No one wants him in. He's a joke completely. The two outcomes now are either the decision isn't overruled, Max gets his championship, but everyone knows deep down, realistically, that it was gifted to him by Michael Massey. Through no fault of his own, and he's a deserved winner. Well played to him. He did very well this year. He's a great championship. But on the final race, he was beaten by Lewis, and he was gifted it through finessing the rules clearly in a disgusting display by Michael Massey. So it's very unfortunate for Max, and I do feel bad for him. The other decision then is it gets overruled. Max Verstappen goes on celebrating his championship for a few more, however long, and then gets the trophy taken off him afterwards. Lewis wins his 8th world title and the Michael Schumacher record is broken, but it's broken
In such a
months
disgusting
afterwards in court. Like, either way, it's just awful. Like, no one wants
That's
to
what
see
I'm
it.
saying.
It's just
They
terrible.
won't do this and they won't do this. They'll just put the blame all on the stewards and the FIA. I think they actually need to sit down and rewrite the rules.
Here's the thing.
No,
I feel
rewrite
like
the rules. Not the rules, but in terms of the race director does not have
Yeah,
overarching power. He has to follow procedure, especially when it
I
comes
think
to
that's
safety.
already there, but if it's
Like,
argued, then
they
fair
need to
enough.
remove that, or they need to make that clause clear that he
Yeah.
can't have overarching authority like that.
I'd say
If you say the stewards have overarching authority, I'd say okay because there's 3 of them, so it balance it out. But if you say him, well, he is biased. Every person
that's
is
the main
biased.
one,
That's
the
the
bias,
thing.
yeah.
Everything. If it's 3 people there, they're not all going to be 3 biased. Relatively, it balances out. I think over the course of the season, to be honest, if you look at all the kind of decisions, I think it balances out. In terms of he got this for him, he got this for him and stuff. Obviously, some decisions were much bigger than others.
Yeah.
But then at the end, I think it balances out. I'm sad to see it end this way.
Yeah, definitely. That's the main thing.
That's what kind of
Any fan of the sport is disappointed.
every fan. I was watching the WTF one post race, they did a podcast straight after,
Yeah.
and they did one the next day. But I was watching that one, and they were even Tom.
Tommy, the
He's
Max Verstappen fan.
he's a Max Verstappen fan. And he's like, I'm sad to see it end this way. In terms of like he said that I think Max deserves to win the championship. I think that's true. I think everyone thinks Max deserves to win it, but the way Lewis lost it, you can't not feel for him. Like,
and if he won it afterwards, you would say fair enough. He did an incredible end to the season.
Exactly.
He outdrove him today or Sunday, whenever it was. He did all of this, whatever. He won the championship. Great fight from Max. He did incredible. It was, if rules were followed, there would be an argument there where you'd say, all these rules are broken. Max Verstappen probably the best title, because right now the argument is the best title contention to finish second is Lewis with like 10 wins, a bunch of podiums, all of this, blah blah blah, this many points. He did the best performance to finish second. Max would easily take that place if he lost on Sunday, but he didn't. Either way, people are going to be annoyed, but the fact the rules weren't followed is ridiculous. It's stupid.
But then the rules weren't followed from like the beginning of the season. Like, first race, I think it was like first race they deleted some laps because track limits and stuff.
Yeah.
And then they did the whole thing with Max giving back the position, which I get then because it was like he overtook outside. But from there, I think Bahrain was fine. I think after Bahrain, it was just bad, bro. Like, you got races where it's just like, you're sitting there, you're like, at every single race, you're just sitting there, you're like, what have they done? Like, honestly, what have you guys done? Like,
they've done. It's awful. Like, I'm pretty sure.
I think they set a bad precedent at the beginning. And
Definitely.
then they felt like Michael Massey has felt like he has had to kind of give some to this and then, I have to give some to this and this. And he just, like, that's the thing this is how it is.
Yeah, because if you set a bad precedent at the start, you're
Then
now
what did
either
you
following
ruin
that
the-
bad precedent the whole way, or you're overruling a decision and then drivers go,
But that's the
"What
thing,
is this?"
if he does a mistake and he just sticks to it for the whole season, like you can overtake this way, you can do it the whole season. But when you do it sometimes and sometimes not, that's the worst thing. Because like in some races, it's okay. In some other races,
You don't
it's
even.
not.
The worst part is you don't even admit guilt and then go back.
Exactly.
You just change the rules whenever you want, which is honestly horrific.
That's
And for the
why-
pinnacle of motorsport and what's trying to be the biggest
It's
sport in the world,
dumb, bro.
it's awful because it has potential to not become the biggest sport in the world. But motorsport is a corner that's very much held by F1. Like, in football, it's the biggest sport in the world, but they got leagues and all of this. Well, Formula One is a world championship. It should appeal to pretty much everyone. And it's just, it's embarrassing.
Every new person I've met who's like watched Formula One for the first season, they've said that I've never felt as excited as I felt in that last part of the race. Those last few laps. No one, like, that's what Formula One can do. It's that level of excitement. You don't feel it at any other sport. And I feel like they're ruining it for new fans. And they're ruining it. New fans might not care as much.
True.
But actually they care about. Like, I think they're ruining more also for like the older fans more. Definitely. Because we know the rules, we know what's happening, and we kind of understand it a bit more. Like, I was explaining out to my friend, like, this happened, and kind of the consequences of everything. I think once he got it, he was like, obviously he's a Max Verstappen fan, so he's happy. But once he got it, he was like, okay, no, like, this is not good,
For everyone else, you see the message flash, 5 lapped cars. These 5 lapped cars are allowed to unlap themselves, and then the safety car comes in instantly. As much as there's excitement, we're like, what is this? I've never seen this before in my life. Obviously, the new fans are like, oh, no way, this is incredible. Like, we're going racing, and they're going to decide who wins the championship. And Crofty starts screaming, and everyone's screaming, and it's great. But then you tell them, oh, yeah, you know how he crossed the line and finished first, and they gave him the trophy and stuff? Yeah, that might not actually happen now. They're going to court about it.
Exactly.
And then you have to explain all of this, and it's awful. Like, it's just, it's so tough. It's so tough.
But I'd say the nice thing about the race was when Alex Albon jumped on the radio and was screaming, Max!
That was nice.
Yo, that was actually nice. So wholesome. Like, as in, like, Albon was so like, you can see he's psyched for Max.
Yeah.
That was actually like, it's not like, I say my favorite is like bist. Like, that is just.
Oh yeah.
That is just.
I clipped that last time. I couldn't find the fastest lap one.
It's like I think that's like the best kind of one-liner in sport ever.
Really.
Ever, like one-liner in sport is just like when someone asks, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
It's up there, yeah.
I think this one's good. It's just that one is just like. incredible.
No, yeah, because Crofty's going for the champion of the world thing. It's kind of it's a bit standard now. He does it every year.
Exactly, yeah, it's boring.
Yeah. I mean, it was off the radio as well.
Exactly, yeah, that's why it was so good. And then he's crying, and it's so nice, bro. But
right.
Yeah.
Not to make this the Max and Lewis show, seeing as we don't want
It
Massey,
is
the only person watching this. We've just got to round this out quickly and mention basically everything else that happened.
Tsunoda was incredible.
Science on the podium. You love to see it. The one time I don't predict him to finish on the podium, he finishes on the podium, which is, you know what, fair play to him. He's now finished 5th in the championship. That's ahead of Norris and Charles.
Yeah, I think you have to give him points for going into Ferrari, going into Charles' team, beating him, and just I think that there was like people saying, "Oh, Mick Schumacher's gonna come. They're gonna let Carlos go." I think they can't, because if they let him go, or you let him go of your better driver at this point, or like the guy who's performed. He jumped into a new car and he performed better over the course of the season than the other driver. So
it's interesting, yeah.
And they're never gonna let Charles go.
True, because the whole conversation, the moment Carlos was given that seat was, oh yeah, he's a place filler. He gets a 2-year contract. Charles is already on his 5-year contract. He's basically Ferrari's next champion confirmed as soon as they get the car. And then Mick Schumacher, the son of greatest of all time, Michael Schumacher, he comes in, he fills his dad's boots, he comes into the team, and they've got 2 incredible drivers. But now they've got 2 incredible drivers anyway.
I think as well, like the team is more balanced now. Like Carlos and Charles seem to have a good relationship. As in, it's not like they're not buddies, but it's like professional relationship. There's respect there, and like you don't really.
They're as fast as each other, pretty much.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, this is the first time in a long time they haven't had a 1 and 2. Like normally they end up having a 1 and 2. So like there was Schumacher, Barrichello, Alonso, Massa, Kimi and Vettel, other way around though, like Vettel and Kimi. Pretty much for as long as I can remember, Ferrari have had a strong number 1 and a clear number 2.
Oh yeah.
But now
they don't need.
They can't
That's
do
the thing. The balance of the team though is very good. So they don't actually need that. Like I think they do well together. You have to mention also Tsunoda. He got P4.
So Tsunoda and Gasly 4 and 5.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with. I think Tsunoda, like if you look, he did well in Bahrain, and I think then everyone expected so much of him, and then he went through that phase that kind of like he's a bit more messy than like a lot of like guys who are in Formula 1 for the first year. But I think he picked it up towards the end of the season. He's performing a lot better now.
He said this is the best he's felt in terms of confidence.
But in terms of like the previous races, he's also been like doing really well.
He's getting there,
Yeah, I think in terms of next season, going into next season, at the end of next season, I see them like if he keeps this up and he keeps improving, I see them keeping him and Gasly.
I do see that as well, yeah.
And then because they have an incredible array of young talent, that then they're looking at like who can be the next maybe number 2 or who can challenge Max.
Because if Max from Max.
Because because Max could leave. Like realistically, he could leave in the next few years.
So really,
who would fill his boots?
That's very impressive.
Sergio Perez can't do that. I don't think Tsunoda can do that.
No.
But like for instance, there's Liam Lawson.
You think he would leave in a couple of years?
Perhaps, you never know.
I find the first thing he said on the radio after was, can we do this for the rest of my life?
Yeah, but the next year, if what happened to Sebastian Vettel happens in next year,
true,
Max is leaving.
True, yeah. To be fair, Max is too good of a driver to deal with a midfield team.
Max is leaving.
Oh my god, yeah, I completely forgot. Red Bull are probably going to be a midfield team next year.
Yeah, so he is.
Oh, you're completely right.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to leave soon. So that's why Red Bull need to find someone good quickly. That's why I'm surprised they get like new regulations and stuff. They'll probably be able to keep Max maybe for the year afterwards. But I think that's the thing with Max winning the championship and like getting this taste of winning races, race in, race out. I don't think he's gonna accept that going back again to what Red Bull was.
It happens to everyone. Like it happened to Lewis at McLaren. The reason he moved to Mercedes, which
but
was
he stayed
a
with
midfield
that for
team at the time.
Years, you know.
He did stick with it, yeah.
I don't think Max would stick with it. He doesn't have that mentality.
But either way, a quality driver does not sit around in a midfield team. They get now that he's proven himself to be clearly
exactly a world champion.
In terms of now, I'd say he's the most valuable driver on the grid, obviously.
Oh, by far.
Age is so Lewis is so much older now.
Lewis is dead, bro.
Even if even if you want to argue who's faster, whatever, who cares? Realistically, he's younger, which means that he's way more valuable to a team.
And he's only going to get better with time.
Exactly.
Like, he was able to keep up with Lewis this year and best him for most of the season, and he's only going to get better from here. So
yeah, which is why you would say that realistically, if
He's
Red
the
Bull
most
come up
valuable.
with some dead midfield car,
he's
whoever's dominating next year,
Yeah.
Max
But
Verstappen
that's the
has a
interesting-
clear entry into that
But
seat.
that's the
potentially.
interesting part. I don't see him going to Mercedes.
No,
I don't see him
never.
going to Mercedes. But the question is, okay, if Lewis retires at the end of next year, who's going to get that second Mercedes? Are they going to get George to be there? No. I honestly, I'd be happy if Gasly goes there and it's Gasly and George.
Yo, oh my.
That team would be insane.
I'd love
But
that.
then I also want like Daniel to leave, and I want it to be Gasly and Lando. That would be a great team.
I've said this, I said this a while ago.
So, Gasly, I think, if Lewis retires, I think that will create something for Gasly.
It would be like the
But
ripple
if
that
he doesn't,
Nico
He's
left.
screwed, basically.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Hopefully, it would be a shame to see Gasly go.
But I don't see
we
Max
don't
going
want
to
chat too much
Mercedes.
yet.
I don't see him
Nope.
going to Ferrari. I think Ferrari are happy with the setup they're having. I don't think they want to
Yeah.
bring in Max because it's a very toxic atmosphere. He wants to be the number one. He has to be the number one.
Yeah.
It's not going to go down well with like Charles because
He
they have
has
to
a
keep
good
Charles.
relationship with Lando.
I don't see him going to McLaren. Zach Brown loves Lando way too much to kind of let him play second fiddle to someone else. And I think the way Lando has stepped up this year.
You could see he's worthy of being the lead.
Yeah,
driver
I
of
think
McLaren.
give him another year. If he has the car, I think now he's learned what it means to lead a race, and what like that kind of thing. I think there's inexperience in him, but there's also inexperience in the team because they have not dealt with that for the past, I don't know, like 10 years.
Yeah, the staff turnover
But-
from the last time they won the championship,
insane.
which was like
But
2008. Was
Mercedes obviously have won a lot more, so they had the experience at the time. So now it's kind of about building that experience. I think that with the team he has around him and stuff like that, I think if given a good car, now from next season, I think he could go on and potentially challenge. Perhaps win not next season, perhaps the season afterwards.
Maybe, yeah.
So he's won a few races, he knows what to do when he's leading a Grand Prix, how to do all of that stuff. And then perhaps the season afterwards. But then you've got George in there. See, that's the thing. Every team in the front of the grid now has their lead driver.
I was saying this, yeah, the big teams have now locked out their places.
So realistically, the only thing is like if Aston Martin become good, he could go there. But like Sebastian's gonna retire. Is Stroll gonna play second fiddle to Max?
He's going to have to, but would his dad allow that? In terms of money, maybe.
No,
We'll see.
maybe not. And then the other teams, like Alpine, I don't really see him going there, to be honest.
We'll see. We'll have a chat about driver transfers and stuff because it's very interesting. Like, see, Michael Massey, you don't need to fabricate entertainment, bro. Like, what is this?
So
Anyway, so-
what did you, the positions from last time?
Oh, what, the predictions?
It's 3.5
Nah,
to
shut up.
0.
We'll do that in a second.
No, it's 3.5 to 0.
So, Yuki looking good. Gasly actually finished 5 points behind Daniel Ricciardo. We've been pretty
That's
critical of
insane.
Daniel Ricciardo. Ocon finishes 7 points behind Alonso. Fair play to him. I know Alonso's like a dinosaur at this point, but like a solid performance
it's
over the year
incredible.
from him. Mazepin, worth noting, Nikita Mazepin finished 21st in a 20 driver in a 20 driver championship. That is beautiful stuff.
Because what's his name
What
finished
driver?
ahead of him?
Kubica.
Yeah, in terms of like places.
Yeah, both of them on no points, but he finished higher in one race, which means Mazepin was last.
Bro, the guy's driving with one hand, bro, and he's still finished ahead of him, bro.
And this is
It's Monaco. I can't do anything. Oh my, I'll never forget that. It's Monaco, and like every
I'm gonna
other
link
driver
that.
is turning the dials, bro. Just listen and do it.
I'll link that in the YouTube video. And the last thing worth noting is it's the end of an era. Like Kimi Raikkonen is now retiring. Giovinazzi's going to Formula E, I think. The 2017 era cars, seeing as the last big change in the regulations for the aero department was 2017 when they made the wide tyres and all of that stuff. That was the last big change. And now we're going to the 13-inch Pirelli tyres, which they're testing right now. So there are pictures out there of them with the fresh
They look
tyres.
nice. They look nice with the like covers as well.
They do look good, yeah. We'll see how they act and how they perform, seeing as tyres is a massive part of F1 and they always will be. So, that is
Stop
interesting.
delaying.
I don't want to do this, man.
Stop
Here we go. I should have predicted this, you know. It wasn't even that hard. Okay, actually, no, it was kind of that hard to predict.
Stop
Okay,
delaying.
so the top 5, the actual top 5. Actually, no, we need to do qualifying first. Right.
It was Max, Lewis, Bottas. No, Max, Lewis, Lando, sorry.
Yes, it was. Max, Lewis, Lando.
Yeah, so
We said... Where is it? Aha. You said Max, Lewis, Bottas.
I got 2
no.
of them right.
I said Lewis, Max, Bottas.
You got 0.
Also no.
No, but I got 2 of them right, so I get the point for that.
What do you mean? Oh, right, yeah.
I got that one right.
And then we've got for the race, Max, Lewis, that's yes. Bottas, no. Charles, no. Perez, no. I said Bottas, Perez, Charles, Lando, Gasly.
You got 1 right.
I got Gasly.
But I got 2 right, so it's basically 4.5 to 0 now.
And I got driver of the day if we count that. See, that was so predictable.
But Kimi was out of the race, so it doesn't
Shut
count.
up, man. He got driver of the day. Don't
Perez.
even do that. He got driver of the
Even
day. Let me
Perez-
have this, bro. Let me have this, please.
Yeah, but I win 2, you win 1, so still 4, I win overall. So it's 4.5 to 0.
Listen, I'll win the fantasy one. It's fine.
Just
It's
cry,
fine.
bro.
Right. Well, we'll see. Once we do the 2022 predictions, we'll do an episode of like loads of predictions for the season. We'll see how that goes.
No, that's gonna go bad. I'm not.
That would be so funny. No, we're gonna do it. Anyway, so yeah, that was an awful display. The actual top 5 from the race was Max, Lewis. Who's next? Sainz, Tsunoda, Gasly.
No one would have got Tsunoda, to be honest.
No, yeah, there's no way you're guessing Tsunoda comes 4th. So, I mean, I guess that's it, to be honest. So, as we speak now, Mercedes have not announced whether they're going to lodge that protest or not. Max Verstappen, for at least the next couple months, will be world champion. Most likely is the actual world champion.
It's not gonna change.
Yeah, no, I doubt it. So, congratulations to him. You know, solid stuff from him. 34th ever F1 world champion. He joins a very elite group of drivers. Could he go on to do a lot more? Probably.
If he has the platform, I think. But I think it'd be a lot harder for him to replicate, say, what Lewis did, because he has a much better group of drivers around him than Lewis had. Like in Lewis's era of dominance, realistically, like there was only Nico. Like Sebastian had passed his peak, and then everyone else was not that good, to be honest. So Nico is the only one who could challenge him. But looking at the lineup now, the drivers who can challenge next year for the title, you've got Max, Lewis, George, Lando, Daniel.
See, these are all big names now, but if we say Daniel, everyone becomes a washed midfield driver, then.
But what I'm saying is, the talent at the front of the grid now, if you discount Daniel, for instance, if you look at just the youngsters, Lando, George, Charles,
Sainz, Gasly,
if he goes to a good team. So he's got way more talent challenging him, or they're going to be challenging him. So I think if he replicates what Lewis replicated, it'd be a lot harder.
True.
So it'd be a lot more kind of an achievement. You know?
Well, we'll have to wait and see.
It
all depends on who wins the gamble with the regulations next year.
Hopefully McLaren.
We'll see. So that rounds out the 2021 season. We'll probably have to do an update next week on other stuff, seeing as this just can't be decided once someone crosses the checkered flag. Hopefully by the time we next make an episode, Massey is flown off to flown off to Sydney, and he's ended up in a retirement home.
I didn't know he's
next
Australian.
To Mark Webber.
You know, I didn't know
he's
Australian. No.
To be fair, I think I was meant to mention this earlier, but he got a Wikipedia page made of him, literally in the last couple of days, because of how much people were talking about him. So he has a brand new Wikipedia page, and it says early life, something to do with his career before F1, and then it just says controversy, and it goes straight to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So that's an incredible Wikipedia page.
Not a good reason to be famous, I guess.
No, yeah, he's definitely not getting anywhere with his famous birthdays account. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a great way to round it off.
It's been an insane season. I have to say we're lucky to have witnessed a season like this.
Yes, yeah.
I think it's the best season arguably in the last you could argue 2010 was really exciting.
Yeah, so in the last 10 easily.
Yeah, but I'd say realistically we didn't really watch 2010. We didn't really watch 2008. So I'd say out of all the seasons I've watched, this has been the best season I've ever watched. is being consistently kind of at the edge. You just kind of like, you don't get like Max won a few races and then Silverstone happened, and then like there's always this kind of, and like the way like Toto and Christian and the teams are going at each other, the drama in like between the teams, between the drivers, the whole thing is like insane.
The real drama, the fabricated drama, it was all great.
I'm looking forward to seeing like what, because there's so much stuff to cover. Like 10 episodes for Drive to Survive is not enough. I wouldn't be surprised if they do more. If they go like to like Abu Dhabi and then they're following like Kimi and not like reporting.
I mean, they can't follow Max. He's not going to be in it.
Oh, no, but that's the thing. If they do that, I'm gonna like, it needs to be vlogged, bro.
Right.
Because they did that last year. George Russell had that amazing race, and then they ended up not following any of it, and then they were talking about like some.
We'll see. I mean, we don't trust Drive to Survive to tell the full story, but next year, seeing as we'll be starting this podcast from the beginning, we'll be going through on a weekly basis through the winter break, and then weekly basis still throughout from the start of the season. You can trust us to give a better review, probably. We won't miss anything.
Much better review of the season.
So, I guess that's all, and we will see you next week. Yeah. Thanks for listening or watching or whatever, and we'll come up with like a season review or something next week.
Yeah, see you guys soon.